Today we're talking with Biran Patel, chairman of AAHOA. AAHOA is the nation's largest hotel owners association with over 19,000 members, representing 1 out of every 2 hotels. They're a very well respected, very powerful organization. Let's find out what their chairman has to say. Hey Biran, thank you for joining me today. Chairman of AAHOA, you picked a terrible time to be chairman.
Yeah, I mean, Teague, thank you for the opportunity. I think that this concept that you created last year during this pandemic has been awesome. I've had a chance to look at some of the podcasts that you've done with so many prominent people in our industry, and it's been great. Thank you for having me. But as you said, yeah, what a time to take over something that we've never seen before. But the way I look at it is, if it wasn't me, who would it be? So I've been ready for the challenge. It's been an up and down year. But I think that we'll get over this sooner than later.
Well, thumbs up to you for being the face. I mean, somebody's got to be. So I got to ask, what are you hearing? Listen, you got tons of members, represent tons of hotels, feet on the ground all day, every day. What are you hearing from your membership? What do they want? What are they getting? What do they need? How are they doing out there?
Yeah, for the most part, hotel owners continue to struggle till this day, right? From last March till now, most of them are continuing to struggle. You do have some, hoteliers who have some maybe economy segment properties or extended stay properties, or in some good markets that have, done well or done okay during this time. But for the most part, they continue to struggle, right? Our industry was probably the first one to feel the economic fallout and probably the last ones to recover. And, our membership and our member hoteliers just in general, we've been used to having in-person events. That's been our outreach, right? And now we've had to pivot, just like a lot of other people, to virtual stuff. And I think, a lot of people are pretty much, somewhat zoomed out, but, this is the way we can get information, right? But I think that, from an advocacy front, from an educational standpoint, from the brand communication standpoint, these are all important that hoteliers are, using platforms like AAHOA to get through this pandemic.
So what, I'll ask in a second what AAHOA is doing for everybody, but let me keep focusing on, we're talking to the members, right? And I don't know what we hear. We hear, oh yeah, Teague, we're breaking even. And I give them all credit. They're entrepreneurs, they're survivors, they're rolling up their sleeves. But you and I both know that breaking even means we've furloughed 3/4 of our staff. We're working 3 to 4 to 10 jobs ourselves. We may or may not be paying taxes, insurance, franchise fees, debt service, certainly no FF&E reserves. We're kicking the can. Is that surviving? That's your new break even, right?
Yeah, it is. I think that, obviously the first round of the stimulus with the PPP was kind of a bandage that helped us out to kind of stay afloat. Then, we talked to so many government officials to get that second round out. As we've gotten that second round out. And I think that even the second round with the payroll protection, with that increased to 3.5 times from 2.5, that helps. So these are small bandages that are keeping hoteliers afloat, right? With the EIDL, there's still so much relief that the government can give us during this time to, hopefully to ride this wave out. The Main Street Lending Program they have $500 million just sitting there that we don't have access to. So, we're trying to educate the lawmakers that, this is what we need to get out of this. And then, from a hotelier standpoint, even some of my assets, they're struggling, right? And it goes back to the relationship with your lenders. Some of them have given us, some forbearance, and eventually as this, and it's the relationship that you've built through the years pays off now. And I think a lot of other hoteliers have done the same thing. And the bank, the lending institutions understand, and they've gotten less restrictions also from their guidance people that, they're not being as strict as they normally would be because they understand what's going on.
How long do you think that could last?
I think that, probably at least till the third quarter, right? Is what I'm hoping, right? I think that this new stimulus is going to help hoteliers out at least for the next 3 to 5 months. But then after that, it's going to be, critical to see what happens. It's going to be interesting to see, as you know, Teague, that in the last 10 years, our industry has pretty much been recession proof, right? There's been a lot of development happening. you just don't know how many people have over leveraged themselves in this situation. There's a lot of CMBS loans out there. There really hasn't been much assistance for them. So how long can people ride it out, right? A lot of them have ridden it out, for the last 10, 11 months, maybe 3 to 5 more months. But third to fourth quarter of this year is going to be very critical, I think, in seeing of how long can people keep their keys, until they have to let them go.
Yeah, I think reality kicks in the second half of this year.
Yeah.
The banks have been great. I mean, I'll give everybody credit up and down the spectrum. Everybody's been fantastic doing what we need to do to get through this. It'll be interesting to see what happens when the rubber hits the road in the second half of this year or next year, really. Who's surviving and thriving and who's not. So I don't know if you have any predictions there.
No, I don't have any predictions. There's always guesses. But, back to the lending part, I spoke to some of my peers who own community banks here in Dallas, right?
Yep.
And I've asked them, how is your lending on this? We're lending. It's just a little bit more strict, more down payment, but the relationship that people have built, they're still lending. So it goes back to the relationships that I mentioned earlier.
We've heard relationships over and over again. And again, kudos to our industry. So what are the memberships asking from AAHOA, and what's the AAHOA doing for its memberships? And are you working with AHL? I know you're working with AHLA. I know you're working with the brands. Any progress there, and how long does that last?
Yeah, so members are looking for financial relief, right? And a special stimulus package targeted for the hospitality industry, as I mentioned. Liability protection is going to be huge, right? That's a lot of hoteliers are fearing about liability protection because owners are asking what their liability will look like when people start traveling again. They're concerned that the potential lawsuits that might be affecting them, that people might have contracted this virus through their hotels. So I think that the liability protections will be very key down the road. And then obviously we have several members of ours that bring up some brand concerns at times, and rightfully so. This is something that nobody expected, Teague. And so you see people built up some frustrations and concerns. So what we've done is we have this open dialogue with our brand partners, right? You got to have a two-way communication, and we are voicing some of the concerns to the brands of how they can help out during this pandemic. A lot of brands have done a lot of good things for their franchisees during this time. Some have done more than others. But, I think that overall, the fear is from the hoteliers is that they're going to revert back to their old brand standards and mandates sooner than later, right? Now that the vaccine is come out, and hotels are like, we're nowhere near pre-COVID. So their fear is that are the brands going to start, rolling out some of their pre-existing, mandates and stuff that they had, prior to COVID. And with AHLA, they've been great. With the unified voice, our voice is stronger, right? As you know, Chip was part of AAHOA before, and so we have a great relationship with them. Especially in DC, when AAHOA and AHLA and other associations, like-minded associations, go to them and talk about the stuff that's going on in our industry and what things that are affecting our hoteliers, we are educated, really good progress. I'll give you an example. The SBA, waiver protection last year. Initially, when PPP first came out, if you owned one asset under one corporation, or if you owned multiple assets, you were only eligible for one asset. And we made them understand that, hey, a lot of people own multiple assets under one corporation. Even this time around, for the payroll protection, when they increased it from 2.5 to 3.5, these are voices from AAHOA, AHLA, and other associations that make lawmakers understand what's going on.
Has the PPP, I don't think the checks have started rolling yet, have they?
No, not yet, but a lot of people have applied, right? And so now, hopefully sooner than later, it's going to start coming out. I mean, and they have the 25% restriction where if your business has dropped more than 25% from any quarter, which I'm assuming that almost every business dropped 25%, at least one quarter last year. So you should be eligible. Even with TDR, right? They've increased that, given it some more flexibility with TDR. And with the SBA, 504 and 78, I mean, there's a little bit more flexibility in this new round.
Let's stay on politics. Do you think there needs to be more? I mean, they're currently fighting for more stimulus? Do you think there needs to be more? And what's AAHOA's position?
Oh, definitely, right? There needs to be more. As I mentioned, the Main Street Lending Program. I mean, those funds, $500 million just sitting there that our industry doesn't have access to, right? I think that, I mean, almost every asset has debt. And if you put that as a restriction, then you're not eligible for it, right? And I think that when government talks about airline industry and other industries, why aren't they talking about our industry in the same playing field is what we were trying to get them to understand, right? I think the CMBS, I mean, there has to be some kind of assistance in CMBS. It's an uphill battle, Teague, but it's on their table. We've had several dialogues with them, and we've been proactive as AAHOA even before the elections. We didn't know if the previous administration would come back or the new administration. So with both administrations, we've been proactive in getting our voice out there of what hoteliers need and what our industry needs.
So you bring up a good point about the airlines, and my answer has always been because the airlines are controlled by a few large corporations. So it's easy for administrations to work with them, and they see transportation as an infrastructure. Our industry, as we all know, is owned by lots of different entrepreneurs, feet on the ground, which is kudos to groups like AAHOA, who can be the voice for 19,000 plus members now, for groups like AAHOA, who can be the voice for, I don't know their membership, and rolling up the Hiltons and the Marriotts in the world. Here's our industry, and we need a voice, and I appreciate you guys doing that. This is the opportunity. This is when we need it. So we're all looking to you. Here's Biran, our fearless leader. Here's Chip Rogers, our fearless leader. Beard, what are you doing? And I appreciate everything you're doing. I mean that sincerely.
I think, Teague, we have to take a different approach. We've been pivoting through this pandemic as we learn new things. And when members come to us and ask us certain questions for brand relief, right? And when we talk to our brand partners, I think it needs to be more industry related. When there's something about airlines, nobody pinpoints American Airlines or United. It's about the airline industry. So now with hospitality, right, our industry as a whole, this is the time we can make changes, whether it's with our brands, there's disruptors, cost, regulations, all these things are key, where this is the time that we believe, or I believe, that there could be some changes made for our industry.
Give me some examples, and which ones are going to be lasting changes and which ones are going to go away. I mean, what are we doing with breakfasts and amenity creep? And are we going to charge for room service? Give me your opinions.
Yeah, so, when the pandemic first started, breakfast was a hot topic. And, some of our membership hoteliers said that this is the chance to get rid of breakfast, okay? And we spoke to the brand CEOs about this. And what we came to find out was that just as many people who want to get rid of breakfast, there are people who do want breakfast, depending on the market that you're in, right? And that has given, especially with so many brands out there now, with the 5-6 most top companies, they own almost over 100 brands, and you hear about more brands coming out or rolling out in the near future. I heard Mark's podcast with you, and they were talking about Caption, right? They're coming out soon, a lifestyle brand. So a lot of other brands are coming with more and more brands, right? So with breakfast, I think that it needs to be scaled back, because over the years, breakfast has evolved, and it's a big cost to hoteliers, right? Because everyone's being competitive with other brands. So then everyone rolls out new things each year, and some hoteliers are becoming frustrated. Yes, it might bring some guests in the door and give you some loyalty guests, through the rewards program, but it could be scaled back somewhat, right? So hoteliers overall think that, if you're not going to get rid of it, then scale it back a little bit, right? I mean, amenities, right? I mean, housekeeping is another big topic, right? Opt-in, opt-out is a big thing. And especially during this time when cleanliness and sanitation is huge, that, opt-in, opt-out has worked. So now, will that be here to stay? And that's what some of the hotels are fearing, that will we revert back to the old ways as we come out of this pandemic? And that's what we're trying to get the brands to understand. And it's been an open communication with them. They get it. It's just that the fear is, will they go back somewhat to their old ways, right, is the question.
That's probably all of our fears, that we all go back to the old ways. On some hand, it's great. On some hand, it's not.
I'll tell you, from a personal level, in our, this time gave us a chance to refocus the culture in our company. The hustle in the last, like I said, 8 to 9 years, the economy has been good, business has been good, and we've been so focused, resource driven, that sometimes it makes us go back and look back and refocus the brand and your culture and your companies. And what's more important to you? Is it the health and safety of your employees and your guests, right? And the culture that you've created, and are you still implementing that, right? Because obviously the end goal is to make money, right? But at the same time, have you kind of, taken the foot off the pedal on some other areas? And so, I think this is the silver lining of this is helped a lot of hoteliers out to kind of refocus their companies of what direction they want to go in. And as we come out of this, I think that we'll be even better hoteliers.
All right, I'm gonna pick on you. I like where you're going here. I'm gonna stay there. What made you join AAHOA, and what made you choose to run for chairman of AAHOA? And are you glad you did it?
So, AAHOA is now in their 32nd year of existence, right? And so I grew up in the hotel industry. I was born in England. My parents, we moved here when I was a very young age to the state of Texas. And I've been in Dallas probably since 1982, right? And we had an independent hotel that was 40 units. I was renting rooms at a young age, knocking on doors at checkout time, stripping beds, doing laundry. And this is a common story with South Asian second generation hoteliers. And we've kind of grown up in the business. So it's in our blood, right? And then after I got done with schooling, I have two younger brothers who went in the medical field. And I was like, well, somebody needs to stay in the family business. And so I stayed in the family business. My dad was taking me to some of these AAHOA events, the regionals, town halls. And then, I became an ambassador under Mehul's regime here in North Texas. And that position opened up. And Mehul said that, Biran, you should think about running for this position. So I became a regional director, probably about 10 years ago. So I was regional director for 3 years. And then there was an opportunity to run for the higher position as an officer. And at that time, I took a decision of, hey, look, either I run for a higher position or get out and focus more on the family business. And so I said, this is an opportunity that I might never get again, right? It's more from not just from learning different ways in the hospitality business, but networking, making myself better as a hotelier. So I was like, I was maybe 36, 37, and two young children, a wife with a corporate job. But, long as she gave me the green light to do it, I took this opportunity. And, looking back at it, it's a lot of, as the travel is a lot pre-pandemic, and, a lot of time away from the family. But, I think that there's not a book that you can write of what you learn in these roles, right? And just networking with people at your conferences, what you learn, at the general sessions, the people that come there, you network, just what's going on amongst your peers and how they operate in their companies. It's phenomenal.
Well, that's awesome. Well, what have you learned about yourself this year?
Patience. Listen, right? My personality, before leadership was probably you get impatient at times. And I think that patience I have learned, and, that leadership skills have evolved, and hearing real life concerns of what's happening. When the times are great, you don't hear as much complaining, right? Besides, it's really competitive and people are building everywhere and I can't get this brand or that brand. But now the complaints or the frustrations are different. And the empathy that you just grow within yourself that you have for peers of yours who are going through some tough times along with yourself. And I think that this makes you a better person, right? I think it's made me a better person. And it makes you focus on small things in life that you might not thought were as important pre-pandemic.
What does the 2021 calendar look like for AAHOA?
So we have 6 charity golf tournaments already planned for this year. Those are outdoor gatherings. So those are, low hanging fruit that we want to maximize. Last year we did our regional events virtually. We kind of combined them. We have 22 regions now. So we've kind of combined them into 8 super regionals. This year we plan on in the fall between maybe September or November hosting in-person events then. As I've stated that we've postponed our annual conference to August. We're planning on having that in person. And then, attending industry events like yours throughout the year, and representing our association, representing hoteliers across the industry.
So what does recovery look like?
I think that, the new administration is saying that they're going to be pretty aggressive with this distribution of vaccine, right? Several million vaccines in so many days. If that is nearly true, then I think it's sooner than later, right? As far as the road to recovery. But realistically, I think that, we're going to start seeing light at the end of the tunnel sooner than later, but we're not going to get to pre-COVID for a couple more years. Occupancy is going to start gradually increasing, I feel. But ADR is, I mean, I think we've gone back almost 15 years in ADR. That's going to take some time. That's where when you see the STR and the CBRE forecast, I think they're more in line with that ADR. Occupancy is going to start increasing as people get more consumer confidence, right? And long as hoteliers are doing their part by, making sure those hotels are clean and sanitized, I think that people are going to start traveling again. But third to fourth quarter, I think you start seeing an increase. But as far as business, I think the ADR should take a couple of years.
We think a couple of years as well. That's what we're hearing. So how does that impact your vision of your company, of what you're going to do, both offense and defense?
So defense-wise, we want to kind of make sure that the assets we have are able to pay the bills, right? Offense-wise, new development right now is not in our future. I mean, at least in the next year or two. I mean, pre-pandemic, the cost of building was significantly high. Now costs might be down a little bit, but it's still, for me and our company, it's not wise to have new development. Acquisitions, we're definitely going to be looking at acquisitions. I know that, and I'm sure you heard this a lot too through your company, that when the pandemic started, a lot of hoteliers who have liquidity thought that maybe some of these hotels would be coming up 30-40% discount. And that hasn't happened for the most part. I see more 10 to 15% discount. And so it's interesting to see how this plays out in the next, maybe 4 to 8 months. But I think that for us, we're going to be looking at acquisitions, maybe some conversions, and even as you've heard, maybe even some acquisitions where we can convert to multifamily.
When do the tough decisions for you and the membership? When do the tough decisions happen? Between now and the end of the year?
Oh, for sure, right? I mean, I think the CMBS guys are. I hear several hotels tell me, hey, we need to get our voice out for CMBS. We got to get the government to understand and give us some type of relief. And we are, but they just haven't come back with anything, with substance. So I know that CMBS is going to be a whole different ball game as far as how that plays out. And then, like I mentioned earlier, how many hotels have ever leveraged themselves, and especially the upscale hotels, the new ones that have come out where the development costs so much. And you have REITs and other companies who have put so much money into, how long can they sustain, right? For myself, I think that, for our portfolio, for the most part, I mean, I think we should be okay. There might be some hotels that are not doing as well. I mean, I'll tell you this, we sold a hotel during the pandemic and we lost some money on it. But that hotel, Teague, was in an energy corridor where we were already doing bad the last 2 years. Pre-pandemic, we weren't eligible for PPP first round, and we ended up selling it. So it was a calculated decision that we had to make that, hey, take what we can get and move on from it.
I don't think you're alone there. I think most of the transactions to date have been things that were sort of failing pre-pandemic. And I think what's coming next is very interesting. There's a lot of capital being raised. There's still a lot of capital on the sidelines. A lot of the difficult decisions are going to be made, certainly in urban core, certainly in the large box markets. Obviously, the economy segment's doing okay, thank you. The drive-to markets are doing great, thank you, relatively. So I think it's going to be fascinating what we see, what we learn coming up. All right, let me ask a final question for you. What? Give me some words of wisdom. Give me some for the membership. Like what encouragement, what leadership words do you want to share with those guys?
So before I get to that question,
okay, great.
I want everyone who listens to your podcast to take advantage of our educational platform. Just during the pandemic, we've hosted over 200 webinars. And whether you are a rookie just getting into the business or a seasoned veteran, there's something for you as a hotel owner, investor, GM, and they're all in our online resource library, right? I urge everyone to take advantage of that because that is a free tool, right, for everyone. And there's something in one of those webinars that can enhance your businesses. Having said that, what message do I give to hoteliers across the country? The one word that always comes up when I do these things is resilience, right? We went through 9/11. We went through 2008. This is something even greater than that. But our industry is resilient. We overcome challenges. We are good at adjusting and pivoting to how to make our industry better and our businesses better. And this is no different. I mean, this is something that, like I said that no one would have envisioned, and it's something science related. But I think we're going to get over it, and we're going to be even better hoteliers in our operations, in our acquisitions, in building everything. It's going to make us overall better, right? And I think that just everyone keep your head up and stay positive. And I think the sooner is coming. I think it's not, we're not done here in the next month or two, but within the next 12 months, we're going to see more light at the end of the tunnel.
Here. I like it. That's great words of wisdom. And I think, listen, Biran, cheers to you and your leadership. I don't know who's next. Vinay, I think, is coming next. These guys were cut out for him. And I think just AAHOA, just like everyone, has had to pivot. And I think all the online resources that we can watch from the comforts of our own houses are things people should take advantage of. So cheers to you guys for being the leaders. Keep fighting the fight with AAHOA and PPP and whatever we can get for the membership, because we need somebody speaking for the voice for the industry.
Thank you again, Teague, and I look forward to seeing you at your conference.
I look forward to it too. Thanks, Biran.